This is Inside the Game, where passion meets precision. Jonathan Turner, Nathan Wengler, and John Natale are your hosts, breaking down every goal, every controversy, every match that matters. From the heart of American soccer to the global stage. No fluff, just football. Weekdays at 9 a.m. live on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all listening platforms.
Good morning.
Seems that we've been
Did I
away
not
from
press
this
the
for
button?
a little bit.
Oh boy.
Yeah, little rusty.
Yeah, good morning. It is Monday morning here, June the 16th, and this is Inside the Game. I'm Jonathan Turner alongside Nathan Wengler and John Natale, and we are excited to have you back here. We had episode 100 here just back a week ago Friday, and we took a week to relax. And during that week, what happened, gentlemen? Anything fun and exciting while we were away?
Natale, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, very humbled and honored to be on the first radio broadcast of the IHSAA State Softball Finals here in the state of Indiana, held at Purdue University, Bittinger Field, which is home of Purdue softball. They had the Big Ten championship this year, and it's the first year that they did the radio broadcast. And I was one of two play-by-play analysts in the state of Indiana to get that humbled honor. So it was super exciting. Two great matches in 2A, 3A. Tecumseh Braves, congratulations. And also the Indianapolis Cathedral Irish, congratulations on your state title. Also North Newton and Crown Point for 1A and 4A. But I'd never been on the campus of Purdue before. And I walked past Alexander Baseball Stadium, which is clearly where the baseball team plays. And then you walk into Bittinger, and that's just a phenomenal facility. And, you know, I don't know how you guys feel about that stuff, but I'm a stadium and arena nut. I always think that when I go into places that I think about who's been there prior to me, who's been on the field, who's been in the press box, everything like that. And I know who's played on that field, and I know who's been in that area. Just Purdue, all the Big Ten standouts who have made Major League Baseball, who are playing for USA Softball, everybody that walks through there. So really, really humbling moment for me this past Saturday.
Yeah, on my side, the Caps were on the road in Lansing. So, you know, I think I talked about you guys, you know, the way that minor league baseball breaks down. You have two halves, right? You have the first half and the second half. And the way that the reason why it is structured the way that it is because you want to essentially congratulate teams for having a great first half, because you understand that in the second half you might not have the same exact squad that you did before, because obviously the point of minor league ball is to get promoted and everything else like that. So, you know, they were looking to end what was the longest drought in franchise history, 7 years without making the postseason. You know, they were a wild card team for a while. The wild card disappeared. In minor league ball, you have to win your division. So you either do it in the first half or the second half, but that's the only way you get in. And I myself, since being there in 2018, have watched three separate teams celebrate game clinchers or playoff clinchers. Never us, though. You know, we were always on the doorstep. We were always right there, but finally got the job done in Lansing, going back to the playoffs, you know, dancing in September, I think was the line. And you know, for a lot of people like to talk about in minor league baseball, it's all about development, you know, and even we could talk about that in the professional space in soccer too. You know, it's all about development. It's all about personal development. It's all about getting to the next level. But sometimes I think we lose sight of the fact that winning still matters and learning how to win still matters. And once you finally get a taste of what it feels like to win, that matters a whole lot. Because then you're going to continue chasing that feeling, and you know exactly what it means to be on a product that wins, even if it is about personal development, player development, and getting guys to a point to where they can contribute on the major league team. Saying that winning doesn't matter is completely disingenuous, and it's just straight up not true. And I saw that, you know, on the road in Lansing when we were able to get the job done and get there. And seeing three top 100 prospects, live up to the billing, because we had banged the drum about this team being one of the best in all minor league baseball to begin the season, and they lived up to every single one of those expectations. And I'd say this. I know we got a lot of Michigan-based people that watch this, and JT, and I don't know if they're as big, into the game of baseball, at least the major league level, as you and I are when it comes to the Tigers, but it's the best minor league system in baseball right now. And it's because they've started to prioritize winning at all levels. And so for them to get that done, and then just to be a part of that clubhouse, I have never been in a playoff clinching professional clubhouse before. It's different when you're in college, at like Cornerstone, it's different when you're in high school, but when you're working with professionals and they're able to get it done, I mean, champagne, Maker's Mark, tequila, Coors Light, just all over the place. I mean, the minute I walked in there, it was just a beer and a open bottle of water, and they just dumped it all over my head. And it was, I think they went at it until about 3-something in the morning, and then they got up the next day and won again. So it's a special group, man. And just being able to see, because they're so about business every single day of the week, because they're professionals, right? To see them let loose and to see them really just kind of embrace that moment, it's something special to be a part of. So now I have an opportunity to go win a championship, and I want a ring bad. But yeah, it's right there.
JT?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I have anything to top what you both did this weekend. You guys,
You did yesterday with the picture you sent.
Well, part of history, right? So, I mean, you guys are both part of history this week, which is fantastic. And John, I think to talk about what you said for a moment, where there is this thing about walking into a stadium, right? Or walking, and not even just stadium. I mean, to be fair, anything that you consider to be, magnificent or massive, right, on a scale, right? I mean, think about this, like walking into to Disney World the first time is kind of the same feeling of walking into a stadium that's empty and you're looking at it for the first time, all the crowd, right? It's kind of that same feeling, right? You go back to like being like a kid again. I remember the first time I saw Notre Dame. I went down to South Bend, Indiana. I was a teenager. We were there for a soccer tournament. I didn't get a chance to actually go in the stadium, but I had watched the movie Rudy, and so that's how those two came together. And then obviously seeing Touchdown Jesus and being able to see through the gate, into the stadium and seeing the grass field, it's awesome, right? And so I can tell you this right now, walking into any stadium I've ever walked to into the country, I remember the stadium very vivid. I might remember the matchup, the two teams who played, but I do remember the stadium. I remember walking to Lower.com Stadium the first time, Columbus Crew Stadium the first time. I remember walking in, to University of Michigan. I remember walking into, Little Caesars Arena and Palace. I remember these moments very vividly. So the fact that that's something that you still, it's really cool, right? It's like that kid in us, right? That's the really cool thing about what you're talking about there. As far as this weekend, obviously business as usual for us, right? We end up doing 97 broadcasts this past week. And we did a record on Saturday, right? So we did 34 last Saturday. That was our record. And then this Saturday we did 40, right? So we produced 40 broadcasts on Saturday. We were scheduled to do 60.
That's awesome.
60 or so. And for varying reasons as to why those other 20 didn't go, but we're working through all those, which is great. But yeah, we had 40 broadcasts, and I think yesterday we ended up doing 16. Yes, I got home on Saturday night, and I want to just say this. I think this is the cool part about our growth is that I, for the most part, have had a hard time, kind of like releasing the reins. And maybe that's I think anyone in a position of ownership or position of authority sometimes has a hard time, and maybe not even sometimes, maybe they just have a hard time saying, hey, I want to delegate this to somebody here. Mainly not because they don't necessarily think they can do it, but maybe it's because they aren't necessarily going to do it the exact same way that you would do it, and maybe there's not the same kind of care, right? There's something to be said about that. I mean, it's no different than, right, that if you were to have someone watch your pets or watch your house, they're gonna take care of it as they think they should, but it's not the same way that you would do it, right? So I think maybe that's a good way of maybe looking at it. Like these are like what we've been building, what I've been building with our team is something that I'm very proud of. And so the last few weeks, as we've been all these new people who have been trained and staffed up, you know, they're able to kind of handle the environment on their own now. And that means that I get to leave instead of at 1 o'clock in the morning. I get to leave at like 9 o'clock at night, which is a huge game changer, right, for us. I mean, I was home last night. I actually went to Father's Day barbecue at my family's house that we were not supposed to go to. I got there, I think, around, I don't know, 7 o'clock and 6:30, and we had a barbecue, and the games were still going on. You know, now were there some issues while we were gone? Of course there were, but they figured them out, right, and made it work. But Saturday night, same thing. I think we left at like 8 o'clock on Saturday. I was out of the studio at Friday night at like 7. These are all things that normally wouldn't have happened in the past, but now they're like, hey, you know what? We've got a good crew. They know what they're doing, and they've been able to problem solve. And so for me, that's been awesome because at least I know that I don't have to be there for things to run, and even in the word smoothly. I mean, you know, and that's another part of this. But yeah, on Saturday night, I got home from the studio. We'd had dinner, and my daughter Brianna was handed me a package from Amazon. She's like, "Here you go. Here's your Father's Day gift," and it was a Lego set. So, it's funny. It's like I'm like sitting there going like, this is crazy. And I sent the picture yesterday to you, John, like, you know, because when I was actually at the studio and I was like, I took a picture. It's a small one. It's like 458 pieces, but they're like the smallest 458 pieces that Lego makes. You know, so it while it might be on some level probably an easy build because it's so small, all these pieces are so small.
But
you know,
that's the thing, though. If you notice, that is an 18 plus, and here's what I figured out. So feel better about this, JT, is that 18 plus doesn't have to do with the age. Like, it's not like, well, if you're not 18, this is harder to build. It's because of the size of the pieces. There are sets. Yeah, there are sets that have the same amount as that London set that have 400 pieces, but the pieces are that big. Those Friends pieces, the Duplo, stuff like that. But the piece count is so small, and I'm sure when you put it together, it's real intricate because those pieces are so small. So it doesn't matter if it's small, but if it's 18 plus, it's going to be a challenge. So it's cool that you were able to do that. I love those little panoramic things of the cities and stuff. Those are really, really cool.
Yeah, this is it right here. This is the set that I picked up. And I built it. I mean, I'll tell you this much: the Ferris wheel doesn't look quite like a circle Ferris wheel. I didn't take a finished product picture yesterday. That's on me. But yeah, it was. Oh, you can't see it, can you? Hang on here. There we go.
Yeah,
there it is. That's the. But again, that circle doesn't quite look like a circle. It's oblong.
And I'm going to tell you that 12 plus. That's not bad because they changed it. That's an older set, and that's a creator set. We could go on all day. If we just want to talk about Legos all goddamn show, we can go ahead and do it. I'll give you the education on from when they started changing the boxes and the content.
So I might there. Look, I just rotate back into the middle there. Look at that. So that's what I did yesterday, and I had a chance to watch a new movie. Actually, we watched a movie I think every night this weekend. Think about it, like at the house. There's this new movie on, and I think actually both of you would appreciate this. I think it's on Amazon Prime. If not, it's on Apple Plus. But it's got John Krasinski from The Office, and it's called Fountain of Youth. It's very much like watching National Treasure. It's very similar, to National Treasure. So if you like that movie with Nicolas Cage, National Treasure, I would say this is probably right in that same ballpark.
Wheelhouse.
Same wheelhouse ballpark.
I'm not going to watch it.
All right, fair enough. Doesn't like Nick Cage.
I don't.
There's a guy doesn't like Nick Cage.
And if he had not made Con Air, probably could get away with it, but that movie exists, so therefore forever I will hate Nick Cage. And Face Off, two of the worst movies ever made.
That would actually be a great show. Is like what what movie was like the one that like did it in for you for an actor?
Well,
Like,
there
what
was two.
it?
He was in two, Face Off and Con Air.
Oh, Face Off was bad. That was really bad. That was really bad. I actually, yeah. Well,
And John Travolta was in Face Off and Broken Arrow with Christian Slater.
who
So
just got a Walk of Fame star, by the way, just this past week. Christian Slater did. So it was funny because
They did make a face-off too. Did you see that one, Natali?
No,
They did.
They made
Yeah.
no, and I'm glad I
Well,
haven't.
They had to take over the leftover clips from the first one that didn't make it to the movie. They had to put it back together and say, "Here's
Stuff
two."
they had to leave out.
I hate when they do that. I hate when they take terrible movies and then be like, "Oh yeah, this was successful," aka all the Resident Evils, Speed 2, on a boat.
On
Come
a boat.
On a boat. Jesus.
With a different actor,
Anywho.
by the way. It's funny.
It was
when
the
the original
even
actor's
Keanu.
like, "No, this
Yes.
ain't gonna work."
Yeah, it's like
No.
Major League 2.
Yes.
Willie Mays Hayes was like, or what's his name? Oh gosh, who played
Wesley
Willie
Snipes.
Mays Hayes? Wesley Snipes.
Wesley
Yeah, he's
Snipes,
like,
yeah.
Nope, not gonna do that.
Oh, that's
So
funny.
bad. So bad.
So I want to just go over these numbers like I do every week on Monday. I wanted to show you guys kind of like where we're at as far as how many broadcasts we did. There was obviously a single day record on Saturday for us, and that was great. And so I'm gonna put this up on the screen here right now. But we did 97 total broadcasts last week. We did 94 the week before that. We did 97,000 views, so about 13,000 more views than last week. We had 684,000 impressions and 539 new subscribers. Again, this is look at last week's numbers, kind of a comparison, right? So, and then the week before that, right? So those are all record weeks here, 3 weeks
There
back.
you go.
You know, and so that's a look at all of our numbers and again the growth. And I said there's gonna be this moment where like we kind of like, I would say we have this peak, but you know, there's gonna be certain things that you just can't keep doing every week, right? There's gonna be a moment where, hey, there's gonna be like this thing, and I think where we're at is probably a pretty good number, right? So, I mean, if you're doing 100,000 views in a week of anything, it's pretty substantial, and yeah, and which leads me into this, and for the sake of time and everything else. When we started this show, Nathan and I back here in January, we talked about it going into October and of last year, and kind of, hey, what does it look like? How are we going to do this? There were some plans for us to even start before January, but we opted to kind of go and say, hey, we want to do this and start fresh in January. Picked a great day to do it, January the 6th. Get the first Monday of the new year. And then we obviously, did that for the two of us for a period of time. And the goal of the show was to use this hour to talk soccer, to talk about the network, to talk about broadcasting, right? To kind of shine a light on not just the game, but also what we do when we sit in the chair and we get out behind a microphone and have a conversation with people who are watching the game at home or on their phone. That was kind of like the premise. And a lot of that was during the winter when there wasn't a lot going on aside from MASL, which is normally our slower time of the year. That's quickly becoming a very busier time of the year, and it will moving forward for years to come. So, and then we move into our spring, and we went from 5 miles an hour to 100 miles an hour, right? And there wasn't a lot of gap in that. It just, we went from 0 to 100, 5 to 100. And so a lot of that we experienced was you're in, and like on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays, I'm in it with teams and players and leagues, trying to manage the schedule, trying to do all those things. And as you can imagine, extremely stressful, extremely pressured, because we want to make sure that we're doing it right. And so naturally, back when we connected, John, it started to make sense that having a third person on the show was going to help balance out me and Nathan, but also in the event that either of us needed to take a break, we had another host who could help. So we started to kind of bring you in kind of like on Tuesdays. And then if I couldn't make it, you'd pop in. If Nathan couldn't make it, you'd pop, So we did this thing so that we kind of have like this natural, so we wouldn't miss a beat. We can continue the show, but this pressure of us always having to be there kind of allowed us some of that flexibility. And again, that relieve that pressure. And so it made sense. And then it's, hey, okay, let's bring John on permanently in the show because he's really a great asset to what we're doing. It's tremendous value. And so it just made sense to bring him in. And when we were doing all that, I was talking with Nathan about how I would like to take a step back. I was like, hey, I would like to, before we brought you on, I'm like, if there's a way for me to take a step back on a daily basis so that I can focus my energies in other areas, it would be very beneficial to me to be able to do that, and beneficial to the company as a whole. Because if I'm spending an hour here each day, it's an hour I'm not spending someplace else that could help us, whether that be in the production side or whatever the side might be. So that became a real thing. And then I also found too that over the last many weeks, I take this very personal, and as I probably should, and as I probably shouldn't. And I don't say I'll take this show personal. I'm saying that I take what we do personal. I mentioned this on previous shows. My family is engulfed in this. We are all in on this whole thing. My family included. You guys are all in on this, and for you guys, I imagine on a lot of levels, it's personal, right? It's personal because you're putting yourself out there, game in and game out. You're on this show. You're talking about your life. It's personal, and when somebody says something or there's something out there that does not go right, we do. It's hard to not say it doesn't bother me, right? But it does. It does bother us. No different than a player who's out there on a game and they miss a play, and it to their core it could hurt them. Especially in big time games, big time moments, right? And so we experience those same things in our positions, in our roles here. And so over the last many weeks, I've tried to, process this new world that our company is in, and it's been very difficult. I'll be the first one to tell you. And I think what ends up happening is while we're talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly, I think people remember the ugly. I think people remember the bad. They don't remember the good. And from my position as the president and the owner of this company, I have to be mindful that our customer, right, our viewers, our teams, our leagues, that they have entrusted us with this tremendous opportunity. And the last thing that I want them to think is that we're ungrateful for it, or that we are disingenuous, or that we don't appreciate everything that these leagues are doing for us, even if it comes with hardship along the way. And so, yeah, we've been on here on Monday mornings talking about how hard it can be to get a roster, or how this team isn't doing that, or this production team isn't doing that, whatever it might be. And from it shouldn't be me doing that anymore, right? It shouldn't be me. And to be fair, we shouldn't do it at all. But specifically, it should be me. And that's me. That's on me. And to be fair, it's not like this is like something like where it's, if someone was like, you shouldn't do that. No, it's just like internally we've talked about this. It's just not something that we want to do. And so for me, the best thing for me is to say, hey, I'm going to step aside. I'm going to let John and Nathan do their thing. I'm going to let them take Inside the Game to a new level. I'm going to get back to what I have to do, which is to help continue to make sure that this company is strong and moving forward and growing while we're doing all the things that we're doing. And so for me, getting that hour, that 2 hours back a day that I'm spending on this show will help me and this company in ways that you can't even imagine. And so that's what I wanted to come on here and say this morning, is that effectively today, officially, I am no longer part of Inside the Game. All right. And what would you have that look on your face, John?
Yeah, no shit.
But I no longer part of Inside the Game, the podcast. Now, what does that mean? It just means that you will not be seeing me on camera every day. You'll be seeing John and Nathan and any other guest they bring on. And hey, if they want me to fill in because they don't have, they have to take a day off, absolutely, I'll be back to do that. But effectively today, I just won't be part of Inside the Game, and allow you guys to do your thing, and allow me to do my thing behind the scenes. Um, it's so I'm stepping aside and letting you guys and handle this. So
All right, he's gone. All right.
no, I'm still
What
leaving.
happened that
But yeah. So I mean, this is probably the time. If you have any questions, this will be the time to ask them, and then I'll continue to drink out of my own cup.
You having a town hall meeting here? You got any questions, Natali? Make sure to raise your hand first, just so we know who to call on.
Hey, Monday morning. How are you? Shit. I mean, I had no idea where that was going. And to everybody out there, I mean, the thing about JT and Nathan and myself is that we're all invested in this 100%. And outside of this podcast, we do a lot of different things. It's not just play-by-play. It's not just coming on here. We're doing a lot of behind-the-scenes things as well, trying to help JT and Bianca and his family make this thing succeed. So we talk offline a lot, almost every day. And throughout the day, too, if something comes up, we're all on the horn together and we're collaborating and we're shooting ideas back and forth and whatever. And, it brushed by me that, hey, if I need to step away, I need to, because there's things I got to get done. But shocked as shit that you're just like, hey, and now that you said that, I didn't even catch on the banner there. It just says Nathan's and my name. And then on the Chiron on the bottom, it's only, so you son of a bitch. I didn't even realize that this whole 27 minutes. I didn't recognize that.
Subliminal messaging at its finest.
I mean, I'm very grateful that you brought me on. I thought the conversation I initially had with Bianca and then to you, and I felt that there was a connection there. And, it goes, to me, heartfelt, that it goes beyond just a professional relationship between all of us. I'll be moving to Michigan at the end of July, early August, because I want to be more of this. And that'll get me closer to you, Nate. That'll get me closer to you, JT, be able for me to do some of the back end stuff, producing if I have to, being on site for a camera, whatever it is, but to help this thing grow. And I tip my cap to you to put yourself in a position where you have to step away because of how much you have to do outside of an hour. How much you can get accomplished in an hour is far beyond Nate and I talking about the Club World Cup or the Gold Cup that's going on now. Soccer is going to be around, but you got a business to build. And the fact that you brought me in, you tested me, and both you and Nate challenged me to see, hey, will this work? And you stepping away, but still being here, it means a lot to me personally, because you do entrust me to do that. And I can tell you that Nate, and I'm sure you share the same sentiments as me, is that we're going to take this thing as high as it can go. There is no ceiling. I think that, he's at his ceiling, or he's playing to the, we got an opportunity here, something great that you two created back in January. And I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure that it succeeds from here on out. So I appreciate that from both of you.
Yeah. And you see that through growth in terms of numbers. You see that through engagement on social media and other platforms, and people that continue to come back. That's where you see that. And to JT's point, back when we started it, and we took off in January officially, there were a lot of days early on that just didn't get much of anybody, if anything, in terms of people watching the show and following along with the show. You get your handful. You get your initial people that come back every day. Peter Mazuik's a great example. And there are a couple of others that have consistently been on board with us really since the beginning. But that's where it starts. And in someone who's worked in the podcasting, in the radio show world, this is not something that takes off immediately. And so, when JT initially brought up the idea once upon a time, I knew that initially it was going to be like that it was going to be a battle to get people involved. But as we continued to go, and as the weeks continued to pass and the months continued to pass, we started to see not only this thing taking on legs, but also adding you, Natali, and then bringing on the guests we have had in the first half. When you reflect on what the first 100 episodes were, it really was kind of started from nothing. And kind of like what JT said, it went from 5 miles an hour to 100 miles an hour practically overnight. The business did. And a lot of that, I think, in one way or another, kind of rubbed off on this podcast. And that's what's allowed us to share these clips on social and get the reactions we've had. That's what's allowed us to really boost engagement in a lot of different ways with the show. And you talk about a good marketing tool. I mean, me personally, there's not a lot of other in terms of what we do as a company. Yeah, we do our own stuff on social. Yeah, we do our games. But in terms of a platform where conversation is the focus, right? And that's the beauty of something like a podcast. You can get the best out of people in a platform like this if you're able to do so efficiently, if you're able to interview efficiently, if you're able to put them at ease. And and that's what makes me sad about it, because I think the combination of us three was a good combination. And I do think there was good juice there. I thought the vibes were immaculate. I thought the way we were able to balance out, especially interviewing people when we did get people on, was great. But I know that life gets in the way. And it's the hardest thing about podcasting. It's the hardest thing about being on a show. And I think I've said this before on here. I've had multiple people that have told me, I want to start a podcast about this, that, or the other thing. And my first thing before you get into anything about what you want to talk about, when you want to talk about it, is this: you better be ready. You better be ready, because there is a level of consistency that needs to be present in order to make something like this go the way that it should. That if you are not absolutely 100% able to provide that, it's going to be really hard. And so with the amount of stuff that we do as a company, I can see why that gets in the way. I can see why that would, it would lend itself to better, more opportune things as the owner of a business to be away from it. And to that point, I think we've gotten to a point to where we can do that now. But it's hard, man. But to say that, we've come a long way, I think is fairly accurate. And we've gone through a lot in that 100 episodes. And I think we've gotten to a point now to where we feel comfortable making this transition and continuing on. But yeah, it's hard, but it's there. And we've done great work doing it. So I'm sad. I wasn't necessarily happy to hear the news, but I am happy that we still got something special working here. And like Natali said, we're going to keep plugging away.
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously there's I could talk about it for days, right? And go into greater detail about every the decisions and things like that. But again, John and I talked about this last week. My job in my role, not only as the owner and CEO, which is to manage the business, but it's also to be the face. I mean, if there was a town hall meeting, I would go be a part of that, sit down in a chair, and I'd have a conversation about what we're doing, and it would have to be a positive conversation, right? If I was asked to do a public event, again, I would say I would go. It would be who's going to come? It's the CEO's going to come, right? Typically, that's how that works. And I'm not saying that in other environments that you might have other people doing other things, but my job is to set the tone of this organization. And if I come in here on a Tuesday and I talking about something that went on this weekend that's not of a positive light, that has an impact, more so than you can imagine. And everything that I do and that we do has an impact, good, bad, or indifferent, and we have to be mindful of that. Again, every single day I'm hit by 15 or 20 or 30 problems, and as I should. And my job is to solve those problems, and do so in a responsible and positive way. And again, I go back to that thing. It's everything that happens right now, while it might be impersonal to the world, it's very personal to us. And so when that happens, when you see a view or a comment from a viewer, when you get an email from a team, a phone call from a coach, you react emotionally based on it being a personal thing, while it might not be, you know. And it's hard. It's hard to go, you know, and not want to
Yeah.
you know, scream back. You know, it's hard. It's hard. And I mean, if you listen to these video cameras on our channel, you'll hear coaches who are yelling at their teams. They want their team to be successful, and some coaches do a very good job with doing that. Other coaches, maybe not so much. I mean, and but you're going to have a front row seat to that if the camera's right next to the coach. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just what it's going to be.
Mhm.
And we could try and turn the volume down and things like that, but I mean, that's an actual thing that you're going to experience, and we experience it all the time. So for me, I the pressures of being a CEO and a founder and an owner and all that kind of stuff are one thing, and the pressures of managing the day to day are another. But then expressing those frustrations, those pressures in this form is not the right way to do it. You know what I mean? It's not right. And it doesn't do us as a network. There's no value in that. There's no actual value in sharing that, other than the fact if you're trying to maintain credibility, right? That's the only value that I see when it comes to, like, for example, and I'll say this only for the simple fact that a lot of the feeds that come into our environment right now, we're not receiving feeds from teams. So it's not like I'm blaming the teams. I don't want it to sound like because we don't receive something, like it's the team's fault. But when we're pushing out a message to the world that we're about to broadcast a game, and that game does not broadcast, what we have to say is, unfortunately, we have not received the feed from the team. Like, that's what we have to say. We're not receiving it from the team or the production company that is sending it to us. We are doing everything we can to get the feed. That is not to point blame at the team. What that is designed to do is to let you know that we are receiving it from the team. It is our job to push it out to the world from there. And we do that in a lot of different ways. But it is a credibility thing. You know, it is. And so if we are going to do anything, it is about making sure that people understand that there are games that we are 100% responsible for. Like, they are our games. They are our camera people. They are our teams. They are our content. No, that is ours. And absolutely 100% unequivocal, you know, we will make no apologies for trying to go out and get those feeds, right? That we will do it, right? And we will do it regardless of all the other things, and we will try and deliver that. But then there are games that we have no responsibility over. We're just the destination. We are just receiving the information and then redistributing it back out to our platform. And those are the ones that we might not have a feed for. So, yeah, when they come to watch us on the National Soccer Network and there's a game at 6 o'clock and it's not there, you're going to be mad if you're a fan of that game, saying, where's this game at? Where is this game? And we do. We've trained our producers to say, hey, we're working on grabbing the feed. We're working on it. As soon as we have it, you'll have it. But, you know, just like when they say there's the camera operator is terrible, we're like, well, it's actually an AI camera, so you're really getting mad at the computer. You know, it's like, you know, it's a robot, you know, an AI robot, you know. So it's like we're because, like, we had that yesterday in the game where someone's like, hey, you know, the camera's not great. We're like, well, we know. I mean, we know it's not great. It's an AI camera. You know, but yeah. So I just, what I don't want to do is I don't want to do that here. Right. And so, and it's really hard for me to not want to do it, you know, and it's hard for us to not air out those types of, not to say grievances, but let's be honest. I mean, we talk about how hard it is to get information sometimes in our worlds, and that's a very frustrating thing, you know? And so that's a thing that we want to steer clear of, and focus on the positive aspect of what we do in the soccer world. And there's a lot of great things that are happening right now in the world of soccer, and things that maybe aren't so great, but are still worthy of having a good conversation, a quote unquote U.S. men's national soccer team, right? And that, you know, whatever you want to call that hot mess, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like, well, I mean, talk about a hot mess. I mean, of all the messes in the world, that is a hot mess. And, you know, the U.S. men's national team is facing a crisis of all crises of all time. You know, they are facing a crisis, and that's something we should be talking about a lot, and it's not so much about talent on the field. Okay. Does Christian Pulisic deserve a break? Absolutely. Absolutely. The guy deserves a break. We all deserve to take a time off. I mean, everyone deserves a moment to themselves to recover physically, mentally, whatever the case might be. They all.
Gabriel has it right. Gabriel has it right.
It's like
What up, Gabe?
what I mean? But it's like seriously though. I mean, the U.S. men's national team is in a true crisis, and it's like,
they just blanked Trinidad and Tobago.
Well,
5-0.
When you hit rock bottom, all you can do is go up.
Well, I know, and that's the funny thing about that. So I was, me, I like the number crunch or whatever, and they got blasted by Switzerland, and then they come back and, oh yeah, we got 5-0 over Trinidad and Tobago. The combined population of Switzerland and Trinidad and Tobago in the United States would be right in between Michigan and North Carolina.
It was like 6 million.
10.
Oh,
Michigan's right a skosh under 10, and North Carolina is 10.3, and Trinidad, Tobago, and Switzerland is 10.2.
Wow. I don't Michigan had that many people.
There's 342 million people in this country. And we got smoked by one that had 8 that was smaller than the state of Michigan and Switzerland. That's embarrassing.
I don't know if I put a lot of stake in and I do agree with you, but the reality is that while we are massive in population and landmass, that Switzerland's, I'm not sure what their landmass is, but it might be not bigger than Michigan. I don't know how big their country is, but with that being said, I think when we talk about the U.S. men's national team specifically, John and Nathan, it's like the issue isn't a talent issue for us. We don't. It's for us. It's the intangible, the immeasurable, right? That only can be measured when you see it in real time. Alexi Lalas talked about it. He's like, when you see it, you see it. When you don't, you don't. I mean, it's like that's it, and that's the gripe with Christian Pulisic. The gripe is that yes, his body needs his rest, but why now? Why not? I mean, why not go out there and give it that time now and do your thing now? Show the world that even with heart, and grit and toughness, that you go out there and do your thing. I think that's the gripe. And to be fair, across the world right now in the United States, you have this thing where you're like, do people even care? Like, there's this. It's about caring. And is that something that we should even be thinking about right now? I mean, the World Cup is less than a year away, and we're honestly here talking about whether or not the players who are on this team even want to be on the team in the first place.
That's the point. That's the point. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about. It's the bitching and moaning that's going on between players and coaches and fans and front office and all that crap. That's what we're talking about. Wherever other team is out there on the pitch practicing, getting ready to whip our ass next year. The most news coming out of our camp is a love-hate relationship between allegedly the best player on the team and the coach. That's pathetic. That's the news that we have.
Well, and that is the part. And Alexi Lalas actually even said that the other day. At a point in time where American fans desperately need something to cling to in terms of feel good, in terms of really seeing any sort of progress in terms of Mauricio Pochettino knowing what he actually has at his disposal. When at a moment, really a turning point, especially after the Nations League final, where we need something to look at and go, okay, we're at least in a decent spot heading into the World Cup in 2026 to do something. That's when Christian Pulisic decides to play 90 minutes in his final club game and then crickets. Okay, like nothing, like disappeared off the face of the earth. And we're talking about the drama between him and Pochettino. I'm going to take that one step further. The drama between him and Landon Donovan is where the issue comes into play. And my favorite part about all this, right, so we have these players standing up for Christian Pulisic. You see Weston McKennie, what he said to the media, obviously Mark Pulisic, and I had made light of this on social media. I said it is so fitting for American soccer for the father of the player, even though he's a multi-million-dollar athlete, the daddy has to step in and stand up for him. But it wasn't just him, okay? The United States Soccer put out a press release explaining Pulisic's absence on behalf of Christian Pulisic and how he was tired and how he deserved a break and this, that, and the other thing. And that's why he's not there. And my theory is this, Natalie, and maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, because I know there's media in other places of the world, but I thought at least this is part of the issue. I don't think soccer players, not that I don't think they don't have to deal with the same media pressure as any other sport in the U.S. If the United States men's basketball team gets embarrassed by Greece, they're going to hear about it for years on end. Hockey, same thing. Baseball, probably the same thing. Do we always send our best? No. But soccer players that are playing, that are from the United States or in the United States, do not consistently have to deal with the level of media pressure or scrutiny growing up. And so when they get to that highest level, now we have one former player who makes a stink about how you're not competing with your national team on the doorstep of the World Cup. And by the way, only the second time it's been on American soil. You break immediately because you were criticized by one former player. It is how it's a look into how mentally soft this team is, because Stephen A. Smith is not paid millions of dollars to show up every day to talk about soccer. He's just not. Right? They don't have to deal with the New York media. They don't have to deal with the Boston media. They don't have to deal with the Philly media. They don't have to deal with these people in New York clowning them on their shows every day, because we just don't care about soccer to that extent. We don't care. And if it was any other powerhouse in the world, someone would be in the frying pan right now. This team would be front of mind. But since we're in the United States, it's okay. And we also don't have to qualify, right? So we'll just kind of sit back on the, let things be on the back burner and then figure it out later.
But what's sad?
It's ridiculous.
It is. And what's sad about this whole thing is, Nate, you just brought it up, and JT have mentioned this before. Back when the women won the World Cup a few years ago in France, right? Everything exploded. Like it just brought everybody together. It was a world event, and it happened miraculously. And then when the women back in 90 or 98, when they did it, you just remember that vibe. It's like damned if you do, but holy crap if you actually go out and do it. They have nothing to lose because people expect them to lose. People don't expect anything from our men's national team, not a thing. But do you know what it would mean to this country if on our own soil, if next year, could you imagine the boom of soccer if they were happen to pull it off? Could you imagine that? I, as a Cleveland Browns fan, I see it every year. And how many quarterbacks have we had since 99? 39 or it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
How many years has it been?
I always say that with any college quarterback or anyone that's coming out or whatever, or free agent that's really good, whatever, if a quarterback came to Cleveland and won that city a Super Bowl, they would be bronzed with a statue outside, and the city would go nuts. And that forever. It would be bigger than LeBron James. It would be bigger than anything the Guardians have done. Even when they were the Indians, when they won World Series in 48 and 1920, they have two. But it would be 10 times bigger when the Cavs won a championship in 2016. If one quarterback did that. That's why Bernie Kosar is so reveled in that city, because he got them so close in the AFC Championship game. And I'm sure the same would go for Detroit. If there was a quarterback that could get them to a Super Bowl and win it, that city would explode. The Tigers have a World Series. The Red Wings have won Stanley Cups. The Pistons have won championships with the Bad Boys, and back in 2003 with that no-name squad when Rip Hamilton was your best player. But if the Lions won a Super Bowl at Ford Field, that city would tear itself apart because there'd be so much joy. And if the U.S. men's national team was able to do that, this country would do the same thing. But the problem is that when the Browns don't do it, we get angry. If the Lions don't do it, you get angry. If the men's national team doesn't do it, nobody gives a crap.
There are no expectations, so that means there's no pressure. That means there's no pressure, and it means the media is not going to apply any pressure. Right. And people critique that online. They're like, well, they have media in Italy. They have media. Yeah, right. Pressure on him to produce at his club. That's where the pressure is. That's where he feels the pressure. And even to the players in the other sports that play on the international level, yes, you're going to feel more pressure from your hometown media to produce within the NBA, within the NHL, within your leagues, within your respective where you are. And to that point, if he's feeling that pressure, fine. But explain to me exactly what in terms of the mental side you're up against when you're playing for the United States, because we have no expectations. That's the part to me. But that's also why I feel like this team, they're not being pushed to be better. They're not being pushed to care more because of that fact alone. We expect nothing of them. And I guess I'll pull back a little bit on what you said, Natalie, because you're right. In a world where they somehow find a way to pull it off, it would change everything. But even if they just found a way to put up a fight, even if they just looked competitive.
Like in 94.
Yes,
like in 94.
Yes, even if they just got out of the group stage and maybe got out of the round of 16 and just made everyone go, wow, like they're fighting with everything they have. That in and of itself is enough for everyone that consumes it on an American side to go, you know what? Good for them. I am proud of exactly what I just watched, because we're not delusional in the United States. Like, people watch our show and they think, this is American exceptionalism. They think they should be the best at everything. I will be the first to tell you, right? Much like a Serbia in basketball, we'll probably never be the best, right? But we can at least put up a fight. We can at least be competitive. We can at least show some signs of life. And I don't really read too far into a 5-0 win over Trinidad and Tobago. I just don't. Okay, right? Like, it's the whole blind squirrel finds a nut eventually. It does. Okay, that really felt like a blind squirrel kind of game. So if we're going to use
country population is less than the city of Detroit.
If we're going to let Pochettino hang his hat on that one, I think we got some other issues we have to talk about. It gets harder from here, but it's just show us something. Show us the fight. Show us the grit. And when you have your nickname is Captain America, and you're making excuses to not play on the national team a year shy of the World Cup. You want to know who else plays a lot of matches? Messi. Messi's still playing for Argentina. You want to know who else has played a lot of soccer? Ronaldo. Ronaldo is still representing Portugal.
Well, now go right to Messi, because what I am thrilled about is this Club Cup that's going on right now that started in Miami this weekend. And Messi's a part of that. So not only is he playing for Inter Miami, but then he's going to play for Argentina. The man is pure soccer.
Yeah.
And they brought 60,000 people to Hard Rock Stadium for a 0-0 draw on Saturday night.
Yeah.
But
it just means more.
I know, but see, I think it's the coolest thing. I really do.
Absolutely.
And I want to get both your thoughts on this, because we've talked about the U.S. Open Cup for how long on this show, and how boring it is, and how it's just essentially goes right to MLS. You figure, okay, hey, who's the team? What is it?
Farolito,
California. Yes. Like we talk about them, but then they get smashed by an MLS team if they even get there. And now there's 8 teams left, and they're all MLS teams.
Fun.
But now it's the Sounders, it's Inter Miami, and LAFC, I believe, are the 3 MLS teams in this Club Cup. but you have Man City, you have Chelsea, you have Juventus, you have Bayern Munich. You know how cool that is? I was going to ask the two of you. Anybody want to take a road trip to Philadelphia on Sunday? Because UV's my team, and they're playing at Lincoln Field Financial, and I could see them actually in a competitive match versus somebody else, and I'm so stoked for this that it's here. But it seems that's no one's talking about that. I know there was a lot of red tape that went on in Europe about this to play these matches, but it's here. And I want to get your guys' thoughts because we've been so critical of the U.S. Open Cup. What do you guys think of this Club Cup, JT?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's an awesome opportunity, especially here in the U.S., to kind of piggyback right into the World Cup next year. And so any soccer is great, especially any high level soccer is great in this country. Again, the biggest problem that I have with anything coming here related to anything overseas that's not like the World Cup or U.S. men's national team is it creates a fan or gets fans excited about teams from other countries, and it doesn't help our cause for the U.S. men's national team, women's national team. It doesn't help. It kind of creates. It's weird, right? It's like, because again, if I look at other sports in this country, if you're a Bulls fan, I mean, I'm not saying you don't appreciate watching international basketball, but you're a diehard Bulls fan. You're going to go watch the Bulls. I mean,
Jamie Gilbert.
Soccer, I don't know, huh?
Jamie Gilbert.
Yeah, I just
big Bulls fan.
I don't like we're just creating fans of the sport, and that's to be fair, you can't survive on that. Our culture can't survive on that because you're not diehard fans of the sport here. We're not diehard fans of a team in this country. Right. Again, we say Captain America. I know, but to be fair, I mean, outside of the media, I don't think you got kids around this country walking around with Pulitzer jerseys saying Captain America. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a thing. I mean,
but don't you
still has
think
groupies just like LeBron does? I've learned that recently.
Yeah, but don't you think that this international, bringing the best clubs, which there are a lot of them, it's not all of them, but it's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Just like Messi did. We brought over, I mean, look how much stuff that he is. If you were to put Messi versus Pulisic, the way out is completely different. The scales would tip so far for Messi.
For sure.
By far.
100%.
By far. The man has his own cologne at JCPenney, for God's sake. It smells fantastic, by the way. Works with my pheromones. It does. It works with my pheromones so well. But now you're bringing all of this international flair. You're bringing the Man Cities. You're bringing the Chelseas. You're bringing the Juventus here on our soil. And now people are going to be like, oh, crap. Now this is not – it's just not one person. It's the whole team. And I think that is so intriguing. I want to go to so many games, but there's not one – the closest one to me is Cincinnati. And a couple of the matches are okay, but nothing spectacular. But Real Madrid is in this thing. Come on. Who would not want to see that on our soil?
What it proves to me,
Seattle Sound.
What it proves to me is that we have some of the best in the world that are wanting to come here and play.
Yeah.
That is at the end of the day, which is, I think that's something that Alexi Lalas talked about. And I remember looking back on our conversation about the MLS specifically, when he talked about lifting restrictions on owners, creating a space where these owners can really go hog wild and start to at least move the ball in the direction of creating something that will continue to invite the best talent in the world. Because again, probably want to be here. They probably want to be here. They probably want to live here. They do it at the tail end of their career because they realize it's about over. Well, they can continue playing at lower level talent, but they still would want to be here and play here, and they are here. And so anything we can do, in my personal opinion, anything that we can do to just continue to have them play here, I think makes all the difference in the world. I mean, you even look at, and I've referenced this team before, like the Dream Team in basketball. There's a reason why they made the game an international game more than it was before, because these people came out to watch their players from wherever else in the world play against the U.S. and get smacked around, right? And just get destroyed. But it was the greatest collection of basketball players, the greatest team that's ever walked the planet. And they watched those guys.
I digress. No. I'll
and they were
challenge you on
inspired
that.
by them.
I will challenge you on
I'm
that.
just
That it
saying,
someday.
wasn't the greatest
obviously,
game.
for the sake of time.
What?
Second,
for the sake of time.
2012.
And I'm gonna say this.
You might have a point.
Guys, they've been bringing international teams to the United States for 15 years and playing
I know.
massive stadiums.
Yeah, I know.
You know, for
But-
massive stadiums. It's done nothing for the game in this country. Done nothing.
No. But the thing is, and I talked to Jamie Gilbert about this, the director of coaching for FC Pride, a guy from London and who's a big Chelsea fan. He follows the Premier League and all that kind of stuff, so he knows the international game. And he told me straight out, he goes, the reason that these games are terrible is because they're getting MLS teams that are in season, right? But when they're getting the Premier League teams, they're out, they're lazy, they're not training, they're not doing anything, they're not sending their best, just like they do with the with the Open Cup. The MLS is not sending their best. The USL Championship is not sending their best, and that's what those teams do. So it doesn't make for any intrigue to have
But again,
players
the fan who's
who-
going to those games, the fan who's not you, I'm not talking about you or Nathan, the fan who goes to that game, who's watching Man City and University of Michigan Stadium, the big house, they're not going there for the highest quality of soccer. They're going there because
go,
it's a
Nate.
big ticket item. You guys, this is
We're
the
going.
problem. The
Let's
problem
go.
is it's all for show. There's no meat on the potatoes. There's nothing here to chew on.
You don't think
this
that on
whole thing-
the club thing? Are you talking about the club thing?
The FIFA Club World Cup.
the club World Cup is going to be great. It's going to do nothing for soccer in this country.
I will choke on that hamburger.
Nope. Not a
I'll
thing.
die on that hill too. Yeah.
Not a
I
single thing.
will.
It will not do a thing for anything in
Uh-uh.
regards to growth in this country.
Messi
Not a
playing
thing.
in high level competitive
Nope,
games
not a
in the
thing.
United States.
Doesn't help. Doesn't help us. Doesn't help us.
There
Doesn't
were
help us.
60,000 people at Hard Rock
That doesn't
Stadium.
help. They're not there for US. They're there for Messi. That's different. That's different.
He's on Inter Miami.
Doesn't help us. Inter
He's got
Miami
his
has
own
done-
shoe.
Doesn't help us. Doesn't help U.S. men's
That's
national
all
soccer
I
team.
see.
Doesn't help.
Every sporting
You don't
goods store
think-
that
you-
I go into,
don't
the
think-
first thing I see is
Not
black
at
and
all.
pink.
You don't
Not
think
at all.
making new
You're
fans
nuts.
is going to at least help the game in one way or the other?
New fans?
New fans of the game of soccer.
Oh, new fans, yes, but new fans, they should be going to the MLS games first. They're not doing that. They're going to club soccer.
why-
in the
why-
country.
why
will
would
tell you
they?
this. I don't know where the final is. It's either going to be in LA or
Yeah.
MetLife for this Club Cup, but I guarantee it's not going to be an MLS team. But whoever plays in that game, the two club
Yeah.
teams that end up playing that game, it will be sold out.
100%.
It'll be.
I don't
It'll
know
be.
that. I don't, guys.
And
I'm not.
it's not going to be international
gonna be
fans.
people
It's just
who are
going to
gonna
want to
come
be
to these
people that
games.
want to see it.
If I'm talking about moving the needle for men's soccer, in
Solo's
this
upset
country,
about this. Say
not
something.
doing a thing. Not doing a thing. And again, I'll say this. I'll put this again. What World Cup was more impactful for this country? The men's World Cup in 1994 or the women's in 1999? Soccer as a whole in this country.
I think they were both equal.
What changed the landscape in this country after what World Cup? I can tell you this right now. It was women's soccer changed dramatically in this country because of 1999. Period.
That's extremely true. Women's soccer has exploded a
Correct.
far lot more than the men.
And so obviously it had no. It had again that World Cup. It had, again,
But
you had
that
the rock bottom, it had
94,
no
that
choice,
94 did have a huge impact on soccer here. I know, Nate, you're a little bit younger, so you kind of didn't embrace it as much as JT and I did because we were still in high school. We were what? Were you in high school in 94?
I wasn't alive.
I was in middle school.
Yeah.
No,
so you're in
and
middle
again,
school. I was in high school.
Again, it did, and I'm not disputing that there will be a tremendous amount of people going to these games. I'm not going to dispute that. I'm not going to dispute that at all. And again, you're right. In these summer tours, where Man City, Arsenal come in and they do a bunch of scrimmages here.
United.
They do a bunch of scrimmages.
July 3rd,
be there. But that's what these friendlies that happen during the summer to kind of get whatever it is. It's been great to take the fan who loves the Premier League and get him into a stadium. It doesn't do anything to push the needle for soccer in this country as far as them enjoying the soccer here in this country. Doesn't help us. Doesn't help us. Guys,
this is why you need to go.
Pudding.
This it isn't about business. This is why you need to go because that's terrible.
Get out of here.
Get out.
If I had a red card, I'd put it up right now. Go.
Someone who's been engulfed in this
You're
soccer
done.
community for a long time. I can tell you right now, it does nothing for us as a country. Not a single thing.
Woo-hoo.
Doesn't do a thing.
Whoever wins that.
So you're
Club
going to be
Cup,
on
you're gonna
tomorrow,
see
right? When we
there's
start
gonna be
talking about
so
this
many
tomorrow, you're gonna
fans
be here,
wearing
right?
whoever.
I will not be here tomorrow to
No,
talk
he's just
about
going to be
this.
whatever
commenting. He's
jersey.
going to be in the comment section.
I will not be
Whatever.
commenting either. My final podcast will be this. I'm telling you this right now. It does not help us when it comes to soccer in this country. Us supporting other clubs from around the world doesn't help us. The fact that we even to be fair, I'm trying to figure out how you guys even wrap your minds around this. You're telling me that me supporting, again, baseball. If I look at baseball as a sport, you're telling me the I don't know, the international games, whatever those might be, those come here. That helps like the Whitecaps. That helps the Tigers.
What?
Doesn't help them.
What? No.
I don't
what?
know. I mean, it's just
What are you
whatever
talking
those games
about?
might be.
Where are we going
What are you
here?
talking about? If the MLB goes to Mexico or Mexico City, yeah, I do think it makes a big difference.
That would help. That would help Major League Baseball in the United States.
It does.
It would help
Yes!
increase the popularity of the game, which
Who's
was
the most popular
therefore.
player in Major League Baseball?
No, guys.
is
I'm
the most
talking about
popular
games
player
coming
in
here. I'm not
baseball?
talking about us
It's
going anywhere
right.
else. I'm talking about us staying here. I'm talking about here. You're telling me that if we have international games come here in the United States and we have no teams except for two, you're
Right.
telling me that would increase the popularity of the sport of baseball in this country?
Oh my God! If the Dragons
I'm so
came from
confused.
Japan and played the Dodgers,
Yeah.
Chez Ravine, it would sell out twice. They would have to play
Okay.
2 games because they'd have to roll
Okay.
in new fans. They would
And then
be out
after
the
those
door.
2 games, what happens? What
They
happens
buy
with the game?
international jerseys because some Japanese player is going to come here, just like every
Oh.
time they do, and the media explodes about it, and they're a stud. Same
Who
with the
benefits
Mexican
more though,
players.
the Dodgers
and
or
Latino
this
players.
international team, Japan team? Who benefits more?
It's not about.
We
I
do.
think we're getting caught up in the moment, directly in the moment. Yeah, you may have a point. I don't think it's not about
Guys,
that.
it doesn't
though. It's
move the
about the
needle.
long-lasting effects.
For someone that's been around the sport for a long time and watching these environments,
Oh,
I'm telling you,
well,
do shit.
Jade, I
Don't do
want to
shit.
thank you for your presence. Boy, will we have something to talk about tomorrow. Woo!
It's true.
Mate,
Yeah,
Chat GPT, baby.
I gave
Chat
you a great
GPT.
convo
Holy
for
hell.
tomorrow.
You better do not something for the business side and better be in those comments. Torn
I know.
apart.
I know. I'm specifically talking about the U.S. men's national team and MLS. I'm not talking about soccer as a whole. I think that's where we're getting the mishap.
I think
here,
if you
is that,
create
again,
more fans of the game of soccer, you're going to create more popularity around the game of soccer, which means you're
yeah,
probably
I
going
wish-
to get
but
more kids
again, I
involved.
wish that were
in
entirely
soccer.
true because it's not happening at other level. It's not happening. It's not. We're not
But
seeing it now.
if let's
So-
just say you're telling me if Inter Miami goes on to
Yep.
win this thing, that won't change the needle. If they're
No,
beating these club teams, it's not going to change. If
not at all.
the Sounders, LAFC, or Inter Miami win this thing, it's not going
not
to
at all.
move the meter.
No,
Oh,
no.
Blech. Blech.
Because last year, Lionel Messi went on a tour. Right, stadiums were sold out. They're only sold out for Messi. That's it. Yeah,
That's what I'm
But
saying.
again-
you don't.
but
you
again,
don't
that
think
doesn't
if they
translate.
won,
It
that
doesn't
would change the
translate
needle.
to the rest of it. It doesn't translate. Again, it doesn't translate. When he goes away, they don't sell out. It's again, it's no different. You're taking you're taking a person, a singular person, and you're putting it all behind that person. And while it's great, and while it does increase awareness of soccer in this country, it doesn't help the U.S. men's national team. It doesn't help. It doesn't help. It doesn't translate.
Yes,
As
it
Nathan was
does
just talking
because
about-
if an
Expect it to
MLS team,
translate a week later.
won it,
Years.
if an MLS team won it, if an MLS team beat all these club teams that are sending their best, the world
Sure.
is going to notice that. And
Yeah,
then the
but-
more
okay, so
focus is going to
take-
come. All right,
take
some
Messi
of these
out of it for a
players are
second.
on. What?
Take Messi out of it for a second.
That's what I'm saying. Take Messi out of it. If
LA Galaxy.
LAFC or Seattle
Yep.
won this thing,
That
it
would
would be
help.
like, oh crap, they beat Real Madrid. Oh crap, they beat Juventus.
That would help.
And
That
then the
would definitely help.
focus from the world would be like, what the hell happened? How
For
did
sure.
the MLS
I mean,
do that?
It's not going to happen, but it would help tremendously.
But it's the same thing as the U.S. men's national team. They're not going to. We know they're not going to do anything next year. But if by
No,
chance they
I know.
did,
Yeah, their success
let's
on the
wrap
field
it
is
up.
obviously
We're
very
at 9
important.
minutes over.
Our
We're all
success
getting
is our success obviously. Our success, obviously on the field is very important. But I'm just saying that from the clear standpoint of help and again growing the game and the game in which people love watching it here, these things just don't help. They're gimmicky. It's great and it brings people in. It brings people in from all over the world and it shows our culture. It shows what we can do as far as events, and we do great shows here. There's no question. We have great events. I'm just saying that what does it do for us? How does it translate into us getting more people to watch the game of soccer here in the U.S. that doesn't involve the international environment? And that's my perspective. And again, Lionel Messi was brought in here to create this bubble and this great explosion of people loving the game of soccer in this country. But when he's not playing, they don't love it. They don't, it's no different than LeBron James when he's with the, they don't go to the game. They're not there. He's not there. I mean, it's just how that is. But unfortunately for soccer, you have to have 400 Lionel Messis in order for this thing to work in this country. You need a lot of really good players who are like names, high ticket names, who will drive this thing to even higher. Messi, we need like 15 more Messis because we just don't have it. We're fifth in line in sports. We're not even right now. They're not even talking about it according to Nathan in the news. So how do we get that to happen? How do we get it to happen? Not just bringing in these teams, but like, again, it's gimmicky. Lionel Messi's in the downturn. He's not in the upturn. We're getting him at the lower end of his career talent-wise. That's what we're getting him. We're not getting him at the tip-top shape. We're getting players on the tail end of their careers coming here as a gimmick. That's what he's here. And he's great. He's a great player. I love him. I think it's great. But it's a gimmick to get people in the seats, to sell tickets. You know what I'm saying? And that again, if we're trying to grow the game of soccer in this country professionally and internationally, we need players who want to be here their entire career from beginning to end. Otherwise, it's gimmicky. And again, the true fan of soccer knows that. And that's why they don't buy into it. They're not going to spend $700 on a ticket to go watch Messi because it's like, why would I do that? I'm a season ticket holder for the LA Galaxy. I'm not going to go do that. That doesn't make sense. I mean, it's stupid. I'm going to sell it to somebody else in the open market and get $900 for it. The true fan doesn't like that shit, dude. It's gimmicky. It doesn't make any sense. And again, we'll know when we've arrived, when players want to be here their entire career. And on the tail end, they're going someplace else. That's how we'll know we made it. And right now, that's the part that I have as a fan of this game, who's been around it for my entire life and watching it up close and personal. We're trying to. I don't know. I just don't like it. And again, the Club World Cup is great because it's going to bring people in, and yes, a lot of fans. Great stadiums will be sold out, but it won't help us in regards to our game and our fan bases for these teams, along with the U.S. men's national team. And most of these games aren't even played in MLS stadiums. Again, they're being played in other stadiums.
Small.
Yeah. Again, doesn't push the needle for the game of soccer. I'm just saying, it doesn't push it for. It just doesn't help.
Tomorrow on Inside the Game.
Yes.
Exactly that.
All right, let's wrap this up. In closing, JT again humbled to be a part of this. And I know the things that you're going to do and the stuff that you've been juggling is now you can take one of those balls away and you're going to get a lot done. And as I said, Nate and I are going to wear this NSN. We're going to wear the Premier Media Group badge proudly on our shoulders and our chest. And we're going to run with this thing and really make it into something. The momentum is there. We have all the momentum in the world. We're just going to run off of that. So again, thank you.
Yeah.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
First 100 that we got through was really good. You need a platform in order to launch off and continue to grow. So that's what we're gonna do. So seriously, appreciate it.
And now I get to let you guys go off into the sunset. I get to go off in the sunset, and you guys get to take and chew on what I gave you guys to chew on tomorrow, which is great.
You did, and like I said, I'm gonna choke on that hamburger, boy.
Yeah,
one bite.
No worries. I love being proved wrong. It's okay. It's all good. So hopefully I'm wrong.
And we will do that.
I hope. Well, you can't do it tomorrow. You'll have to kind of give it some time because whatever happens during this Club World Cup will not actually happen for some time. So we won't know what it does.
Well, it's going on now. I'll come out with the numbers. They played yesterday too, and they're playing today. So I will come out with everything.
I'm curious what numbers, but I'm curious. But
just tune in tomorrow. JT, tune into Inside the Game podcast on the National Soccer Network.
I will not
every day. Nathan Wangler.
I will not be a viewer of this show. Oh. It's that one host who's leaving. I can't stand that guy, so I don't want to. I cannot just.
You're gonna write an email to yourself.
Oh man. Anyways,
Good stuff, boys.
Hey,
All
yeah,
right,
it
send
was,
us out. Send us out, JT. Send us out.
Let's find the. Let's see if I pause here. Hang on. I'm not even gonna talk until I need to.
Wop,
So,
wop, wop.
Did it happen? Well, hey, that is the episode 101 is officially in the books, and it is my last episode here of Inside the Game. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. You've got great hosts here moving forward who will lead the way and guide the ship. And hey, I might be back in a guest capacity in the future if they need me to step in for something, but I appreciate everyone nonetheless. So if you haven't already done so, like us, subscribe us, share this with your friends and family. That's Nathan Wengler, John Natali, and I'm Jonathan Turner. Thank you for stopping by. Be back here tomorrow, same time, same place, with 2 and not 3.